Hello, my name is Faith Whithoft, and this is my exercise number 6. We are going to be talking about 3D printing, and the country I chose was Germany. So, what is 3D printing? Well, 3D printing is additive manufacturing, and this is where three-dimensional objects can be built by using a digital file and building the object up one layer at a time. Think with a laser. We can think of 3D printing as the complete opposite of subtractive manufacturing. Consider a cube that is carved out with a laser and just to create a shape or a tool. Well, this is the opposite. We build it up layer by layer instead. So, who all is 3D printing? Well, many different countries are utilizing 3D printing technologies for many different industries and fields. The USA, China, Japan, Germany, and South Korea are all leaders in the industry. Some industries utilizing 3D printing are healthcare, manufacturing, aeronautics, food and cuisine, fashion, and more. Now we'll talk a little bit about Germany specifically. Well, Germany largely invented the standardized and industrial grade level of 3D printing that we have today. And in the automotive industry, German car brands like BMW, Mercedes, and Volkswagen actually use 3D printing to produce components for vehicles, and they allow for high levels of customization. In manufacturing, 3D printing is used to create highly customizable machine parts. In dental work, 3D printing is used to create highly customized dental implants as well. So, one of the big things I've seen here is just the amount of customizable ability that we have by using 3D printing, and that can be so helpful. So, why are they 3D printing? Well, we're going to talk about a German company called EOS for this one of the leaders in Germany for additive manufacturing, as it is known in Germany. Strength of the company is that EOS is the global gold standard for 3D printing and especially what they do specifically. And they're already well integrated into regulated industries such as aerospace and healthcare. For aerospace, think Boeing planes. A weakness for them is that the machines that EOS manufactures and lots of 3D printers have a pretty massive upfront expenditure, so the high barrier to entry does make it more difficult to market to smaller enterprises. But an opportunity is that there's a surge in demand for aerospace tech, which creates massive opportunities for EOS, who can create those parts with their 3D printing technologies or provide the hardware to do so. And a threat, the 3D printing market is full of fierce competitors. I'm sure you've heard so much more about 3D printing within the past decade than you ever have, both in Germany and other countries like China. Specifically, China can probably undercut a company like EOS's pricing, which makes it tough to compete as well. Now, when are they 3D printing? Well, 3D printing was in more of a prototyping era between the years of 1980 and 2000. But since then, we've gone from just creating little small, fragile plastic pieces to actually directly integrating 3D printing into the assembly line, where multi laser machines are producing many complex and highly customized parts for a variety of different use cases and industries. Now, despite the success of 3D printing over the years, like we talked about, there's a high barrier to entry, which can make it still difficult to continue the mass adoption of 3D printing for smaller businesses and industries that may not have the money to get it. Now, one big SDG that 3D printing tackles is SDG number 12 with responsible consumption and production. So remember how 3D printing is also known as additive manufacturing. And remember, subtractive manufacturing is the opposite. We carve a block down into a shape. We probably waste about 50+% of the material in that block that we just carved. But by 3D printing, we are building it up one layer at a time with material that we have to use, and only the exact amount of material is used to create the shape, and any leftover material can be reused. Now, for two truths, one lie. Germany uses 3D printing technology to create easier to eat food for the elderly who have trouble chewing. NASA is now 3D printing rocket engine parts. And surgeons in Switzerland have successfully performed the first full organ transplant using a 3D printed liver. Based on what we've talked about, I think you should be able to get this. The lie is that surgeons in Switzerland have not actually successfully performed the full first organ transplant using a 3D printed liver. We are actively working on 3D printed organs, which I think is kind of creepy, but also cool. But we haven't seen any vast success with it yet. That would be a major breakthrough. Here are my citations and references. Thank you.